Okay, your turn number 2. State if the polygons are similar. Make sure you check to see what you did on your last one and try this one. I'll give you a few minutes. Having trouble getting started? Well, here's a hint. These two figures are called quadrilaterals. Same as the last figures you had. Now, I'll give you a few minutes again. Okay, let's see how you did. Now, the first thing you should have discovered, as you know, is that quadrilaterals have 360 degrees in them. We learned that on the last slide. And we know that opposite angles are congruent. So that means that we can show that angle B is congruent to angle D. And if we take 360 and subtract angle B and subtract angle D, we will get the measure of these two angles together. So that means we have to divide our number by 2 to show that we have two angles that are the same. And that would look like this. All right, that's quadrilateral ABCD. Now, you should have done exactly the same thing for quadrilateral trip. And here it is. 360 degrees again. We know that angle I is congruent to angle T. We know that if we take angle P, it's congruent to angle R, and we subtract 360, we take 360 degrees and subtract angle I, and then subtract angle T, and then divide that by 2 because we're finding the measure of two angles. And so in order to get the measure of one, we need to divide by 2. So that would be 80 divided by 2, which is 40 degrees. So we now have angle R and angle P are equal to 40 degrees. Now we can write out what we know. And so here's all the information that we found out about our angles. So now if we take a look at our corresponding angles, then we would be looking at angle A and angle T. So are these two the same measure? So is that the same measure as that? Well, we can clearly see that one is 100 and one is 140. So no, Those two angles are not congruent. Now we can take a look at another pair of congruent angles. We have B and R. So let's compare them. Now, are those two angles congruent? No, those two angles are not, those two corresponding angles are not congruent either. Now we need to compare C and I. And when we compare C and I, we see that those are not congruent either. And when we compare D and P, we see that those are not congruent either. So that means that our figures ABCD and TRIP are not similar. And if that's what you got, fantastic, you understand. Let's move on to the next slide.